Hi, good evening, everyone. Today, we will be going ahead and we will be taking the topic of multiplier and accelerator. This is the topic from investment. Okay. Now, when we talk about this topic, there are there are three, four things important in this topic. The first thing that we need to go ahead and we need to focus on, that is going to be something which is called as a simple accelerator model. The second thing that we will be going ahead and we will be talking about, that is a flexible accelerator model. उसके बारे में हमने पिछले सेशन में भी थोड़ा सा बात किया था. The third thing that we will be going ahead and we will be talking about, that is going to be a super multiplier model. वो भी, it's not very, you don't have to do it in very, very detail. You just have to go ahead and you just have to do it in short. ठीक है, एकदम थोड़ा सा पता होना चाहिए कि what is a super multiplier model. So these are the three models that we will be going ahead and we will be working with. ठीक है. सबसे पहले let's go ahead and let's talk about the simple accelerator model. When we talk about the simple accelerator model, this basically goes ahead and it says that, अच्छा एक और बात है, before I start this, see, I am also yet to do something which is known as Tobin's Q. ठीक है, but I will be taking a separate session on it. We maybe tomorrow or in the next coming classes, we'll also talk about Tobin's Q. वो भी investment के लिए it's an important model that you need to remember. ठीक है, okay. Simple accelerator model basically says that whenever we talk about investment, it depends on the difference between this year's output and last year's output. In other words, फर्म कितना इन्वेस्ट करेंगे वो इस पे डिपेंड करेगा कि डिमांड में कितना चेंज आया है, आउटपुट में कितना चेंज आया है. दैट इज गोइंग टू गो अहेड एंड डिटरमाइन सिंपल एक्सेलरेटर मॉडल. Right, so that is one thing that you have to go ahead and you have to understand. ठीक है, हाँ, all lectures are uploaded on portal, don't worry. ठीक है, now here this alpha that we have here, this alpha is called as accelerator coefficient. ठीक है बेटा, YT can be your current output also, and it can be also called as current GDP or current sales. YT minus 1 similarly can be your output in the previous period or previous year's GDP or previous year's sale. कुछ भी out of three you can interpret it like anything. ठीक है, so basically what we are saying इस मॉडल में हम क्या बोल रहे हैं, what are the key takeaways? The key takeaway is that when there will be change in output, तो उसी का कुछ proportion, alpha can be any number, suppose alpha is 0.8. So whenever there is going to be change in output, then investment will change by some proportion of change in output. So for example, if my current output is 1000, last year demand was 800, then output has changed by 200. If accelerator value, this is 0.80, ये कुछ भी एक नंबर हो सकता है, it can be any constant, then how much firms will invest? Investment will be 0.80 into 200. That will be the amount of investment. Money, investment was what? Change in capital. So last year's capital minus this year's capital, it is going to be 160. ये आपका, this is what simple accelerator model is saying. ठीक है? अच्छा, one thing that you have to understand, when we talk about any basic function of Keynes, जैसे ये वाला y is equal to c plus I plus g plus nx, and I ask you what is multiplier, हम यहाँ पे पूछते हैं कि multiplier क्या है ना? तो we can define 4 types of multiplier here. Number 1, how output changes when autonomous consumption changes. Number 2, how output changes when investment changes. इसको हम बोल देते हैं investment multiplier. Number 3, how output changes when government expenditure changes. This is called as fiscal policy multiplier. And number 4, how output changes when net exports change, और इसको हम बोल देते हैं export multiplier. ठीक है? So try to understand that यहाँ पर we find out how output changes when investment changes. यहाँ पे हम ये पूछ रहे हैं कि इन्वेस्टमेंट के बदलने पर आउटपुट कैसे बदलेगा, हाउ आउटपुट विल चेंज व्हेन इन्वेस्टमेंट विल चेंज. और यहाँ पे वी आर रिवर्सिंग, वी आर आस्किंग, सो अगर इफ आई टेल यू, if I ask you how investment will change when output will change, this means that this is this accelerator value. So here we are asking how investment changes when output changes. Investment कैसे change होगी जब output change होगा. और यहाँ पे हम ये पूछ रहे हैं कि output कैसे change होगा जब investment change होगी. So the two things are reverse of each other. Don't get confused between the two. ठीक है? So this is your simple accelerator model. Now, when we talk about the flexible accelerator model, it is something that I did yesterday also. So flexible accelerator model में क्या हो जाता है? So we can say that accelerator is 1 by multiplier. Yes, you can interpret it like this, but there is something else also which we need to go ahead and understand. Abhi we will go ahead and we will understand that also. So now what is basically the flexible accelerator model? Flexible accelerator model basically says that your investment is going to be some lambda proportion of desired capital stock and last year's capital stock. ये flexible accelerator model equation है. So we are going ahead and saying that lambda, this is called as adjustment coefficient. K star, this is desired capital stock. And K T minus 1, जो भी मेरा last year capital stock था. Right? So what we are going ahead and what we are saying that every year we will try and we will do gradual adjustment. ऐसा नहीं है कि immediately मुझे desired capital stock चाहिए, नहीं. जो भी मेरा desired है और इस साल का है, उसका जो gap होगा, उसका हम gradually we will try and we will cover that gradually. So for example, if my desired capital stock is 1000 and अभी तक मेरा capital stock है 400, so it means I have to cover a gap of 600. Now we are saying that suppose this lambda, this can be any constant, ये lambda एक number है, suppose 0.50. It means that my investment will be 50% of this gap. So it means it will be 300. Right? So what is going to go ahead and what is going to become my next capital stock now? Next year's capital stock, last year it was 400 plus 300. This will give me 700. So how much will I cover next year then? What will be my covering next year then? So next year, my gap will be, next year will be 1000 minus 700, 300. So now next year, what will be my investment? 50% of the gap. माने 150. And so on. फिर अगले साल मेरा क्या हो जाएगा? What will be my new capital stock? Last year 700 था ही. I covered 150. So my new capital stock will be 850. I want to reach 1000 minus 850. So this will be 150. So how much will I invest next year? 50% of this. So this will be 75. So every year you're trying to go ahead and you're trying to cover some part of the gap of desired and last year's output. वो हमारा यहाँ पे, this is what we are trying to go ahead and what we are trying to do. ठीक है? So first year gap was 600, हमने 300 cover कर लिया. नेक्स्ट ईयर गैप वाज 300, हमने 150 और कवर कर लिया. नेक्स्ट ईयर गैप वाज 150, हमने 75 और कवर कर लिया. एंड स्लोली वी आर रीचिंग द डिजायर्ड कैपिटल स्टॉक. सो this is my desired capital stock, which is 1000. Initially I am at 400. Then this is suppose period 1. उसके बाद you cover some gap and you reach at 700. So you reach at 700 in period 2. ठीक है? Then you have a gap of 300. फिर से आप उसका half cover कर लेते हो. So you cover 50% of it. So which means that you cover 150 more. So in period 3, it becomes 850. Then the gap is 150. फिर आप उसका 50% 75 cover कर लेते हो. And so on and so forth. Progressively, gradually, you are going ahead and you are reaching that gap. This is gradual adjustment that you're going ahead and do. No. Ideally, we assume this lambda to be constant. We don't assume that firms change this lambda value. We assume that lambda is constant. That's not something that firm is going to go ahead and change. Okay. Okay. Then the third thing that we want to go ahead and we want to do in this investment model, that is actually called as multiplier accelerator model. Multiplier accelerator model. Okay. Now, what happens in the multiplier accelerator model, as the word suggests, is that we go ahead and we combine the effect of multiplier and accelerator in one model. दोनों चीजों को हम एक साथ कंबाइन करते हैं. तो what was multiplier बेटा? Investment multiplier. Investment multiplier was asking how output changes when investment changes. ठीक है? And what was accelerator telling us? Simple accelerator क्या बता रहा था कि how investment changes when output changes. ये accelerator है. When we go ahead and when we combine these two effects together, जब हम इन दोनों को एक साथ combine कर लेते हैं, so what we go ahead and what we get, that is basically called as the multiplier accelerator model. It's also called as, what is happening to its brightness? It's also called as super multiplier. Okay. So what is super multiplier model? Combining the effect of multiplier and accelerator together. The combined effect of multiplier and accelerator together. जब हम दोनों के effect को combine कर देते हैं, what we get, that is called as the super multiplier model, also called as the multiplier